Hello everyone, Forest Focus is Nottingham Forest and their fans reflect on FA Cup defeat at Wembley yesterday, but also look ahead to the Premier League running, which could put the seal on an incredible season for the Reds. Joining me to discuss all that and a little bit more, first of all, is Emily Anderson. Emily, good morning. How are you?
I'm okay. Yep, I'm good.
Good.
Glad
Good
to
have
be
you with
here.
us. Yes, looking forward to the next hour or so. Temps, how are you doing, Michael Temple?
Feeling good. Voice is a little bit affected, but I'm back on the raspberries and the orange juice, and my diet today will be far better than yesterday.
Good. Well, talking of diets, Garry Birtles, you made the sensible choice to stay over. How are you this morning?
Yes, not too bad. Yeah, up at 7 o'clock for breakfast, so yeah, it was pretty good.
Excellent. Well, I mean, how was your day, Emily? We all went down. Just talk about what the experience was like, the travel as well. How was it for you?
It was a very exciting day. First thing in the morning, as I was getting ready to go with the sun shining, it was really reminiscent of that 2022 playoff final, but I didn't have any of the nerves. And I'm quite a nervous Forest fan watching games, but it just felt like a great day to go down to London and enjoy watching Forest with all the fans. The journey down was absolutely fine, to be fair. We parked at Stanmore, got in fairly easily on the tube. But one thing I noticed as soon as we got anywhere near London is the sea of red. It was just incredible. It was quite emotional, really, actually, to see how many Forest fans were there. And I thought, oh, well, the City fans are bound to be somewhere. And there was just the odd one or two dotted about. But I took some photos and video going down Olympic Way, and it was just incredible how many Forest fans were there. Forest fans singing. It felt like our day as we got there. I'm sure we'll talk about the football, which didn't go our way. We know that, but actually, for a fan base, for the club, I feel super proud of how incredible the fans were throughout the game, before and after. The players, the staff, everything. It just felt like we did ourselves proud, not necessarily on the pitch, but I actually really enjoyed the day, which is a really odd thing to say when we lost 2-0. It was really nice to be with all the Forest family and great. Yeah. So I feel okay.
We do have some video. I'll put it all together later, but Pete, Emily, Mikey, Temps all chipped in with video. I think Mark did as well. And so, yeah, we should have something from the day later. How do you reflect on it in general, Temps?
Well, we couldn't lay a glove on Man City in the middle of the park, could we? Their game management, after going ahead, made them the far better team on the day, and they deserved to meet us. I thought our midfield passing was poor. I think we conceded possession as quickly as we found it. It was in scant supply. We reverted to rushed clearances a lot of the time, which just gave us no platform to mount attacks. That said, we had the chances to get back in the game. Garry and I were speaking before about Elanga just after half time. He scores that, and it's a very, very different complexion. And that was one of several notable examples where we could have clawed back in. MGW rounding the keeper, Tyler hitting the post. There were chances which could have turned that tide, but no complaints about the result after the game that I've watched. To Emily's point, the Forest support was far, far superior. And if we win on Thursday, I'll get over this one pretty quickly.
One of the big things I wanted to ask you, Garry, and we'll unpack a lot of what Temp says there, but just from a player's point of view, how much will the players look back on that one with, I don't know if regret's the right word, but what might have been? There was a lot of what might have been moments in the second half, and there was certainly the whole of the first half felt like it really got away from us. Will this one stick with the players for a long time from your point of view, do you think?
I think so, without a doubt. You get to a semi-final, you know you're that close to playing in a major final, and it just didn't seem to be our day yesterday. I mean, we'll talk about the Elanga chance. Everybody was up. Everybody thought he was in the back of the net. And then we saw it go past the post. You thought, how's that happen? Is there a hole in the net there? And it was one of those moments where it just turned things round big style. Because I said to Temps earlier, if he scores that, I think we win the match. Because second half, we were so better than the first half. We couldn't get a foothold in the first half at all. Couldn't get Hudson-Odoi into the game. Anderson didn't seem to know where he was playing or what he was doing, and Temps again. He talked about Dominguez and Denilo. Didn't quite work as you'd like to, but second half things picked up a little bit, and Elanga did make a difference when he came on.
We'll go back to the start and we'll talk about team selection. I'll be interested to see if we have any different views on this one or not. Nuno's getting a lot of flack for his team selection. I suppose there's two ways of looking at it, Emily. I think Garry will say you play your best team from the start. And I suppose Nuno would probably say, well, I played an extra man in midfield at Brighton, an extra man in midfield at Spurs, and it worked. And we had something to come off the bench when we would have had very little, I suppose, with all due respect to our subs. So which camp are you in? The Nuno didn't totally blow it there, or actually with hindsight, Nuno got it wrong?
Hindsight's easy, isn't it? I think, looking back, even Nuno possibly regrets not starting Elanga because our attacking threat started when he came on the pitch. Having said that, I can see why he didn't start him. I can see why he wanted to pack the midfield because of how Man City play, and Elanga was the player maybe to bring on when they were starting to get tired. But I'll be honest with you, when I saw the team news out, that was my first disappointment was, oh, no Elanga. Why are we not starting our strongest team? That's exactly what I thought. I was really surprised, as I'm sure everyone was, to see Zack Abbott playing right back. But I thought he did a cracking job. I don't think he put a foot wrong. He didn't have a great deal necessarily to do in the game. I think he was slightly out of the game. I think Morgan GibbsWhite and the more senior players shielded him from that, but he did okay. But yeah, I'm sure Garry will say this because he said it before, that why are you not starting your best strikers, your best players to see out the game? Because the way we played in the second half, had we played like that in the first half, we potentially could have got something out of it, because whatever Nuno was planning to do, it didn't work. And I think it was the perfect start for Pep, because all that noise around Forest being the 12th man, we've got the loudest fans, we've got more fans there, was completely nullified from the second minute, because we were all shell-shocked. You could see it on the players' face, they were shell-shocked. And then we just didn't know what we were doing for the first 30 minutes. And it was a very one-sided contest controlled by Man City. And it wasn't until Elanga came on at half-time that we actually started to get a foothold in the game. So, yeah, hindsight's a great thing. He was asked about it, actually, in the post-match. And, he said the same. You could argue I've got it wrong, but hindsight's a wonderful thing.
Go on then, Garry. Maybe I was putting words in your mouth there. What was your take on the team selection?
I think everybody was surprised, especially with Abbott playing, because I've never seen him play at all. But I thought he did a really good job. I think nerves played a massive part. I don't think I've seen our players as nervous in a game as they were in that first half. And big occasions like that can cause you to be a little bit nervy. You want to be nervous playing in a big game, but not continually. Once you start, you're normally all right. It's the build-up where you get nervous, and that's quite right. But I think we were, maybe overly nervous in the first half, and the two goals were avoidable. That's the disappointment, and I'm sure Nuno will think that. Nobody closed him down for the first one. It was just an easy opportunity. Just nobody came towards him, and the second one was a free header. We've been defending those situations really well this season, and to concede from a corner, free header, it's disappointing. And then it just wasn't our day after that. We got those chances, and another day they go in, but they just didn't yesterday. And like you say, the fans, they've got to be the best fans in the Premier League. It's just incredible. It's just constant. It was, Emily talks about emotion. I got emotional just watching it. It was just they were terrific, and the players did lift themselves second half. And, we were a little bit unlucky not to get anything out of it in the end. If we'd have scored one, I think we'd have scored two. I really do. Because, Man City weren't overly confident second half. It's just that we gave 2 goals away at 2 silly times. Early in the first half, early in the second half. And then you think, well, that's gone. If we got a goal quickly, then it would have been a totally different matter. Because, they weren't overly confident.
Yeah, I think so. And that's a good point about the fans. We'll probably might finish on that towards the end. Just sticking with sort of the team selection and where it went wrong in midfield, Thames. Danilo's getting a lot of flack for his performance, and I can sort of see that, and I'll ask you about that. I do also think Pep did a really good job on us. He didn't play a striker. He packed midfield. They were very fluid, and we couldn't get near them. Just on Danilo, what do you make of him? Because he did well at Spurs. Is the thing with Danilo, the floor is pretty low for him at the moment in terms of performance, and that's what worries me about him. And if you sort of speak about that, but also the dropped a screw. Sorry, the future for Denilo, and if he can get back to where he was.
Matt, you really have.
But Danilo is a contentious selection, and we spoke about the potential for it in the preview, because there have been 5 or 6 occasions this year where he has been selected, and he's a player that Nuno rates because of that dynamism and his ability when at his best to be free-flowing, to put a shift in, and to help the facets of the games of the players that are around him. However, he was really poor yesterday, and he could have been dragged after 25 minutes quite easily, given the frequency with which he misplaced his passes, conceded possession, missed a tackle. He was rolled a few times, wasn't he, by Rico Lewis, who and a few of their lads just ran at him, and he was found wanting. Now, look, I'm not laying this all on Denilo. Players have bad games, and Nuno's entitled to make these selections. He's got it right so many more times than he's got it wrong this season, and we've only bagged him with hindsight. I think the more contentious selection pre-match was chucking Zack Abbott in. Zack Abbott was fine. He was 6 or 7 out of 10. But the difference is between having the fullbacks that we started and the fullbacks that Man City started is they do have to revert to the channel ball, to the ball down the line, rather than checking, coming inside and trying to play their way out and maintain possession. And that did cost us. It's not that these players have necessarily done anything wrong. They just haven't been able to reach the levels that we've come to expect when our best back four and our best midfield are firing. Danilo's the one that's getting the flack because it was him that was the weaker link in the first 45 minutes yesterday. I do understand why Nuno picks him, because when he's good, he can be very, very good. But I think that was a risk, and it was one that didn't come off, and one ultimately they had to undo at the first available opportunity at half time. So that's the selection, the 2 selections I think that Nuno will be ruining to a point for those reasons. I still think there is a role for Denilo to play between now and the end of the season, but I'd be very, very surprised to see him starting on Thursday.
But I thought Dominguez, he wasn't, 100% either. He looked shattered. When he finally came off, he looked like he'd been playing for 3 days. At times I was watching him, and when we lost possession, he wasn't getting back. He was just jogging back. I'm thinking, you've got to get back in there and help. So that probably didn't help Denilo either. And I think you've got to say, we're talking about fullbacks, how much we're missing Aina, obviously, and then Nico Williams not being available just shows how important those 2 are to us, when we're on full tilt. When those 2 are playing, we look a massive threat because they can both get forward, they can both cause problems. I'm not saying, Toffolo and Abbott didn't do well, because they did nothing wrong. But the other 2 give you a different dimension. And, sooner they get back in there, well, obviously, Nico's going to get back in there. Still don't know about Aina, how long he's going to be out, but we have missed him.
I think maybe it's wishful thinking. I wouldn't be shocked if Aina came in against Brentford. It feels like he's getting close, so that would be massive. And I think that's a huge point that Gary and Tamps make about the fullbacks. I thought Toffolo and Abbott did really well and did their job really well, but there is a big drop, with all due respect, from Ola Aina to 18-year-old Zack Abbott and Nico Williams to Harry Toffolo. And it was tough to win that game without them and without Yates to either start or come off the bench. So, yeah, I don't think we can look beyond that. And before we move on, let's do a bit on Zack Abbott and talk about him. It was great to see Emily, the reception he got pre-match, but also when he came off. I mean, you don't want to go off with cramp, but it did mean he could walk around the whole crowd. And I hope he takes a lot from that. What did you make of him?
Yeah, isn't it great to see another Forest Academy player playing in the first team, and long may it continue. Like I said, we were all surprised that he was selected to start and play right back. He did a cracking job for the time that he was on, and yeah, I use the word emotional again. I actually choked up a bit, sort of, as I could see the crowd. Every section he went round was just getting a standing ovation and singing one of our own. That must have been an incredible feeling for him and his family watching on. He's 18 years old. It's his second start for us. And to play at Wembley for your team must be incredible for the young lad. And I really hope he pushes on and, maybe gets a good loan somewhere just to bring his career on. But yeah, he was a joy to watch, and I'll be honest, I was really nervous when I saw his name on the team sheet, because I thought this could go horrifically wrong. And I think you said yesterday, Matt, he was playing out of position as well. He's a centre back, so to play out of position and to put in a decent job, was great, and he had such big shoes to fill in Olorena, who we know is one of the best right backs in the Premier League. So I think he did a good job, and great reception from the fans. You wouldn't expect anything less from the Forest fans.
Yeah, he did really well. I was a bit not surprised. I don't know whether I was disappointed or not. I mean, we could have given him the ball more in the first half. We seemed reluctant, whether that was protecting him or not. Did you want to come in there, Thames?
I was just going to make that point. Zack Abbott made 8 passes in the game, and even Harry Toffolo on the other side of the pitch made 26. It's he had a real low frequency of possession. Was an element of us not wanting to expose him and not wanting to give him the ball. That's not on Zack Abbott. If he's picked, he has to be trusted. If the centre mid's got it and the right back's free, he's got to spray it. So I think there probably was an element of that. Not laying on that on Zack at all. But to make 8 passes in a game shows that he was being protected, or at least not used in the same way that Olorena would have been.
Just round us off on Zack Abbott, Gary. Thinking back to your own Forest debut and things like that, what do you hope he takes from yesterday?
Well, to make your debut at Wembley in a semi-final, that's not bad, is it? That's a game and a half, and to stand up as he did and do what he did, he didn't look nervous at all. I think he carried himself really well. It's not his fault he's not getting passes or anything, but he never got taken apart, and you're thinking, oh my word, he's got to come off. You never saw that once, I don't think. So he'll take a great deal from that. And, to make your debut in a game like that, it's just made my debut was against Arsenal at the City Ground. Then I played against Liverpool in the European Cup in midweek. Then I was at Old Trafford the following Saturday. They were my first 3 games. So in that respect, I think it's good to have games like that where you're playing against big teams, big occasion sort of thing. It helps you. If you can play in those sort of games, you can play in any games. And, I think he'll be part of the squad for a long time to come with a bit of luck.
Yeah, I think so. I hope so. I thought he did a really good job for us, certainly. Thank you very much to Elliot for the £5. Really appreciate that. That is a big point that we do have. Every game's a cup final now, certainly, and we'll probably touch on that towards the end. Let's take a word for the Trent Navigation as well. They are giving away tickets for the Brentford game, so you can get your name in the hat. It's from their list of email subscribers, so you can sign up trentnavigation.com/join, get on the mailing list, and they'll give 2 tickets away. Temps is nodding in admiration at that as a Trent Bridge marketing tool.
It was good to see the Willens boys out yesterday. They were out in force in Box Park. So yeah, whilst they love their big shed, they love other big sheds as well. It's good to see them lending the hand in the south.
I've seen the photos and videos from the Nav yesterday as well. It did look a good day for people who couldn't make it. Let's just touch on the first half, Emily, a little bit. I think I saw you put something in your video. I thought it was a bit of a nightmare from start to 35 minutes. Were you of that opinion, or did you think we came into it a little bit before then?
No, I think that's bob on. We couldn't even get hold of the ball in the first 15 minutes. We talked about the sucker punch early goal, which totally destroyed Nuno's game plan. The players looked like they'd frozen. They looked like they were scared. Everything that we didn't want them to be, that they were, unfortunately. And Man City played their game. The group of people I went with, my friend's husband is a Man City fan, so we met up with him at the end of the game, and he said that's the best, that 15 minutes is the best he's seen Man City play all season, but we allowed them to play like that. We allowed them to do their thing. But I think that, 35 minutes, I'd say the last 10 minutes before half-time, we were slowly starting to get into it, but we still weren't really laying a glove on them. And I think that had we played like that in the second half, we'd have all probably felt even flatter than we do this morning. But luckily, it was a decent second half performance, and we should have scored 3 goals in the second half. But first half was just nothing. Yeah.
How much of that, Gary, is lack of Wembley experience and nerves, or how much of it is just conceding 3 minutes in, which could happen in any game? Where was the balance there?
A mixture of both, isn't it? The last thing you want to do in a game like that against a team like Manchester City is concede after 2 minutes. It just knocks you to 6. And, because their forms turn around a little bit of late, and they're playing like the Manchester City we're used to seeing, then, it's going to be an uphill struggle. But fair play to Forest, they could have crumbled after that goal. 2 minutes conceding at Wembley and against Man City, you've still got to go into half-time. We didn't concede. which I think showed great mental strength. And then to concede again early in the second half, you have to learn your lessons. And from set pieces, it's a free header. It wasn't a difficult chance. And that's not like us from set pieces this season. Milenkovic has been superb. I thought Murillo looked very nervous yesterday. Milenkovic, I thought, held everything together a little bit. But Murillo was, you talk about giving the ball away and not keeping possession. He was hoofing it down the pitch a little bit. And, it can affect players like that. Wembley Stadium is an incredible place to be. I'm lucky enough to have played there. And it can grab hold of you and just more or less freeze you if you're that sort of person. But, you have to try and come through that. And, it's a lesson they will learn without a doubt. And they want to be there again. Once you've been at Wembley as a player, you want to get back there. And it's a special place. And it was a special day for the fans. The allocation, we're talking about the fan zones and everything. Apparently there were 4 Man City fans in their fan zone. I was walking around before the game and had loads of photographs taken, bumped into Viv, who was doing something for the FA in the hospitality. And somebody said, just gone past the Man City fan zone. There's only 4 people in there. So that shows the difference in, the Forest fans and everything. Like Emily said, it was a sea of red. You look down Olympic Way, where you're going back where to the station is, and you couldn't see anything. All you could see is bodies with red and white scarves. It was just phenomenal. It really was. And we just had a walk around the stadium this morning, obviously totally empty. They cleaned it up beautifully. There's not a scrap of paper anywhere. They do a fantastic job. But what a stadium it is. And it is a special place to be as a fan and as a player, and I think, you learn a lesson from it. The fans will want to get back there, and it just wasn't our day. You have those days when everything hits the post or just trickles past the post. Other times, they'll just sneak in the bottom corner. We've had that this season, but it wasn't to be. But nothing to be ashamed of whatsoever. That football is in one of the best positions I think I've ever seen it in, from top to bottom. From the owner right the way down. I've said it before. The recruitment's been brilliant. The player choices have been brilliant. I was talking to Guy Mowbray, who works for the BBC. He was there, and he said, "I think Milenkovic is the best signing of anybody this season." He said that to me, and I obviously agree with him, because I think he's been absolutely unbelievable. And that just shows how the recruitment has been, and what Nuno has done for that football team, and the togetherness you can see among the players. The fans feel it as well. After every game, when you see we've won and it's been a tough game, it's like they've won the European Cup, the League Cup, the FA Cup all in one, because they're just so delighted with each other and for each other. And if you can keep that going, then you've got every chance of staying in the Champions League places.
Yeah, I do think Milenkovic low-key had a really good game. He and GibbsWhite, having slept on it, were our best 2 players. I thought Milenkovic made a big difference second half. Great to have 350 people with us, by the way. Do us a favour and hit like if you haven't already. Let's talk more about the second half. We touched on it a bit, Temps. The Elanga chance, beyond all the ones that hit the post, which we'll come on to, the Elanga chance was probably the one, wasn't it?
There couldn't have been better timing to get back into that game. It's just everything about that goal. Started the run from deep, found himself in that space. The ball was perfect, perfectly placed, had the pace on it. And I was just waiting for him to open up his body and probably score fast stick. I don't know what finish he was trying. There was a suggestion he could have gone left peg, but I think he made the right decision. But then he was trying to maybe sneak it to the keeper's right. Anyway, like that's a split second decision, an instinctive decision for a striker in the moment, as Garry knows. But I would have backed Ante Elanga to score that, and if he had, I think the game would have been very, very different. They'd have had to react to the manner in which we'd set up at that point. We'd have taken confidence from that change. The noise levels would have risen, and then unfortunately, as time told and chances went begging, they were able to compound it with that second goal. But the Elanga moment was huge. And I think we would have made a game of it at that point. Would we have gone on to win? I'm not sure, because right down in front of me, warming up, whilst, as we said, with no disrespect, there's a bit of a drop-off for us. I could see Kevin De Bruyne, Phil Foden, Jeremy Doku, just a world-class midfield on the bench stretching off. And that's part of the difference of a team at that level, isn't it? They can compete on all fronts because they have so much depth. We found that ourselves a little bit stretched, and off the back of that, every selection is analysed, and you can't always react straight away because you're borrowing something from elsewhere to make an amends to a particular part of the team. But it was about that moment, wasn't it? I think, the day out would have been completely different if he'd have bagged that. And I rate him so highly that I expect him to score.
Was it right decision, wrong execution, Gary, finishing wise? Right? Do you take it? Was it the right foot to take it on with, or should he have gone with his left? What do you think from a striker's point of view?
No, because it came in, but the perfect weight, it was there to be just stroked in. Sometimes I think you're looking at the goalkeeper you're facing and thinking it's got to be perfect to beat him, but it always hasn't. Hit the target. Brian Clough always told me, just hit the target. Make your mind up. If the keeper saves it, fine, but don't miss it. Don't miss the actual goal frame. If the goalkeeper saves it, he might just parry it into somebody's path and it's another tap in. But don't try and overthink it. Just make sure you hit the target. And I think he was trying to be too precise with it.
And then from there, Emily, it's not saying it unravelled because it didn't at all. We played really well, but in terms of our finishing, we hit the post 3 times, over the bar once and the post twice. Different degrees of chances. At what point did you think actually this isn't going to happen for us?
I think it was when Taiwo hit the post was the moment that I thought, actually, today's not our day. And I actually thought the GibbsWhite one where he rounded the keeper had actually gone in. I just couldn't quite believe it, and I was stood next to a chap who I don't know, lovely man, and we just said, it's not our day today, is it, mate? Nothing's going to go in.
Need to take that extra touch. I don't think Morgan.
Yeah.
I think if he'd taken it just prior, he'd have scored, but he took one touch and it forced him a little bit wider, maybe. But yeah, it just felt like it. Everybody was saying, just not going to be our day. But
which is fine. And just a word on Morgan Gibbs-White. We've all seen his post-match interviews. We saw him clapping the fans as he was walking around the stadium. That meant an awful lot to him today, and he's clearly absolutely gutted that he didn't quite do it for us yesterday. But it's not for the want of trying, and we know what he can do. But I thought it was quite touching where he spoke after the game to apologise to the fans that had travelled all that way to see them. But yeah, it just wasn't our day. Any other day, they go in and we're back in the game. But it was not to be.
Brian, I'll come to Temps about Morgan in a little bit. Just on the Taiwo one, Gary, to me it looked like an instinctive one, and sometimes they go in, sometimes they don't. Could Taiwo have done better there with his feet or anything for you, or not?
You can always say that. You hit the target, they don't call the post the target, do they? He'll be thinking to himself, I should have scored, I should have done better. We all think that as strikers. We always berate ourselves if, we don't score when we should do. It's one of those things, again, another day it goes in. That's the perils of being a striker. You get pilloried, like it's always a goalkeeper or a striker gets stick because the goalkeeper makes a mistake. We miss a sitter. Best play in midfield because they don't get any stick, because they just run around in midfield and do the easy work. No, I'm only joking, but yeah, it's you can't fault him for doing that. He's in the right place. He's at the right time, and it's just hit the post. Even when they hit the post, it just didn't run for us coming out to us. They got one thing I commented on yesterday when we were watching. They got a lot of bounce of the ball, Manchester City. When it was bouncing, here, there, and everywhere, it seemed to be bouncing to their players every time. But when you're losing a game, I suppose you think that as a supporter. But that's how it seemed. And fair play to Man City. They've had a shocking season by their own high standards. And there was talk of them maybe not qualifying for Europe. They're out the FA Cup early, and the League Cup and everything. It's. Yeah, we got close to them. We beat them at City Ground. We weren't disgraced yesterday at all. And, you've just got to learn your lessons. And I'm sure every player in a red shirt yesterday will think that and say, well, what could I have done better? You always ask yourself, what could I have done better? You'll watch it back again and then you'll say, right, I should have done that. And that's what teams do now. They go through every game with a fine-tooth comb. The players watch what the game has materialised into, and then can we make things better, and that will happen, and we've done that all season. Make no mistake, we're in the semi-final of the FA Cup. We're 6th in the league. If we win our game in hand against Brentford, we go back to 3rd. For goodness sake, that's dreamland. Nobody would have expected. We've said this before, so we have to put it in perspective a little bit. Expectations have gone sky high because of how well we've done this season, and that's down to Nuno. He's got everything more or less right all season, and it's just one game, and you've just got to say, right, okay, we lost. Man City beat us. I mean, look at Crystal Palace the day before, battered Aston Villa. Nobody saw that coming, probably. Things like that happen, and it's how you respond. And every time we've had a knockback this season, we've responded really well, and I think we'll do that again on Thursday.
That Villa point's quite an important one, Temps. I think. We could have lost that game 5-0 away. We were playing after 10 minutes, and then his panic stations. But actually, as Gary says, I think we can take quite a lot from it. The reception from the fans at the end as well as reference. I hope that drives the players on as well, shouldn't it?
Yeah, of course it does. And I think that the team selection would have been different if that was a league game. One of the reasons we haven't picked our strongest suit was with an eye on Thursday. Could he potentially have rushed Olorina back? Maybe. Decided not to. Did he have to rest and protect one or two? Alanga being the obvious one. Yeah, obviously with hindsight, he did, and we will of course all be forgiven and forgotten if we win on Thursday. I think you're going to ask me about Morgan Gibbs-White, and I suppose just a point on his goal scoring. He scored 15 goals and 100 league appearances for Forest. He's a 1 in 7 man at this moment in time. In his championship year with Sheffield United, he was a 1 in 3 man and looked like he could be that bit more free scoring. He brings so much to our team in a creative sense. He gets others playing, and he is a game breaker. He can turn a stale game into something that we can get something from. We just want to see the finishing and the goal tally match his qualities and his attributes as a player. He's pulled one out of nowhere. That the pocket of space that he found when Alanga chipped back to the penalty spot, and he's absolutely rasped the crossbar. I think it's still shaking. That's an example of a chance that he's pulled out of nothing through clever movement and then good technique and execution. But having round the keeper, I think you're expected to score in the Premier League. And there's been one or two other chances that he has failed to find the back of the net with. So for Morgan to achieve his true potential, we'd like him to be an 8 to 10 a season, goals a season man. I think that's a facet that he would say himself that he needs to work on, because it's not for lack of timing his runs into the box, knowing where to be. He's just finding it a little bit harder than he has at certain stages of his career to do that. And also, he is our talisman. This is Morgan Gibbs-White's team. A lot of the recruitment and the structure is being built around him, and others are more aware, and they set out to shut him down. But yeah, he was. He could have been the headline writer yesterday, but for the width of a post and a bar. And I do think it's fair to say that we would like to see more goal scoring prowess from him, because if he adds that bow to the creativity, the endeavour that he has in his game, hell of a player.
If he stays with us, Tim.
Unnerving to see Pep in his ear at full time, wasn't it?
Yes.
There
Moving on, I've put the photos up here. Slightly unnerving. He's, for people who are listening or watching, he's in his ear and he's giving him some kind of look as well as he's talking to him. A bit unnerving. I'm not sure I'm overly enamoured with it, Emily. What about you?
Yeah, but a still picture can be quite misleading, do you not think? And Pep often goes up to players on the opposition side when he's won a game to probably give them some advice. Yes, it is unnerving, very unnerving indeed. I'm hoping he was just saying, well done, mate. Better luck next time. I was thinking about it when I saw that, and we hope we can keep hold of him for another season or two. But if the worst comes to the worst and he goes for big money. And if he goes for big money, we can reinvest. Obviously don't want him to go, because he is the fulcrum of our club at the moment, and he's incredible, and I love him, and he's a fantastic servant for Nottingham Forest. But I think it would be a hard offer to turn down if Man City came calling at his door. I just hope we can get another season out of him, because it'd be great if he could lead us into the Champions League fight. Yeah.
Yeah, well, if we're in the Champions League, I really hope we do get that one more season, and we will talk about that certainly after the break. Just before that, a word from Global Telemetrics. This is a classic of the genre, some excellent acting here from Mr. Mike Boynes. I'll give him a tip of the hat now for the first 15, 20 seconds of this video.
You're not going to believe this car's not here. You're going to... Of course I know where I parked it. It's not here. You're going to have to go and pick the kids up. I'm out with the dog.
Have you ever gone back to your car to find an empty space to where your car should have been? Our no tag no start technology can help you stop that with the immobiliser side.
There you go. Lovely stuff. Forest Focus at globaltelemetrics.com, and the link is in the description. Let's talk about the run-in then, get back to the Premier League. Obviously, Newcastle beat Ipswich, which was no surprise at all at the weekend. Chelsea beat Everton. Everton were really bad in that game, and Chelsea I didn't think were great, but they did get the point, so they're above us. We're back down to 6th. I'll put the fixtures up. Here we are. You can see them on the screen here. We've got the game in hand. We've got what I hope are at least 3 wins there. How are you feeling about it, Temps, as you look at it now?
I'm looking at Chelsea running. So as well as playing us on the final day, they have to face Liverpool and Manchester United at home, and they go away to Newcastle. So you'd hope that would make the drawbridge slightly lower than it might be when we're speculating as to where others might finish. I have to say, I think Newcastle could have a bit of a wobble there as well. Chelsea and Arsenal to face in amongst Brighton and Everton. Man City could have a bit of a procession from here. Wolves, Southampton, Bournemouth and Fulham. Got to be mindful of that. And I am discounting Villa and Fulham. I don't think they're going to feature in the top 6. But it comes down to us and how we do, particularly in those home games. I have got us down to beat Brentford on Thursday night. I have got us down to beat Leicester, and then we've got away trips to Palace and West Ham, which are winnable, and that potential winner takes all on the 25th of May against Chelsea. The only point that I think I should add to that is I haven't met a Forest fan alive that cares if it's 2nd, 3rd, 4th or 5th. But I still think there is a hope / expectation's the wrong word, but I suppose a feeling that we'd be a bit unfulfilled if we came this far and didn't achieve a top 5 spot. If that's by beating Chelsea in the 85th minute on the last day of the season, then so be it. I think these players have earned it. They deserve it. They've laid these foundations to give them the chance to play in the Champions League next season, and they'd feel as fulfilled as we did if they're able to get us across the line. There are teams with harder run-ins than us. There are teams with easier run-ins than us, but it's within our gift to determine if we're going to be a top 5 side or not.
Yeah, I do look at it, and I think there's 2 really massive games. Right now, it'll change, obviously, but Forest v Brentford, our game in hand, is the first one, and Chelsea v Newcastle. If Newcastle can win that, then that is really huge. That is at home, because Chelsea got 3 home games out of the last 4. I know that's wrong. They're coming to us, aren't they? So they've got 2 home games actually. So yeah, it looks tough for Chelsea. It looks tough for Villa. But if this Brentford game feels massive, we'll talk more about that just in a minute. But in general, Emily, how are you feeling?
Looking at it on paper, we should be able to make it, shouldn't we? I think Brentford on Thursday is huge after what happened yesterday, and I'm hoping there's going to be a massive response. The crowd will be up for it. Hopefully we might see Olarena back. We'll definitely have Nico and Yates back in the side. So I just think we've just got to focus on what we're doing. I've said this before. Yeah, we can look at what other teams are doing, but if we keep winning our games, then it doesn't really matter what anyone else does, because we're in that pole position. I know we're in 6th at the moment, but we've got a game in hand. Obviously, we'd rather have points on the board. I think if we can obviously beat Brentford, draw our away games, win our home games. We're about there, aren't we? I wouldn't rule Aston Villa out yet. I know Temp said rule them out the equation because if they end up winning all their games and we maybe lose a couple, then it looks a bit nasty, doesn't it? But hopefully Newcastle can get something out of Chelsea, which will scupper them. You'd hope that Liverpool at home, their next game, Liverpool will win that. Hopefully they've recovered from their celebrations yesterday, and Fulham an outside bet, but no, I'm not too worried about them. Man City look the most nailed on with those fixtures: Wolves home, Southampton away, Bournemouth at home, and Fulham away. So yeah, I'd like to think we'll make it. And as Temps has said, I don't care if we finish third, fourth, or fifth. It's just as long as we get in there.
Thank you very much, by the way, to John Paul Pizzolo for doing the graphic for us. Very much appreciate that. If Villa win the next two, then I think they would beat Spurs and Man United around the Europa League final. There's some context there if they make it, but I'm not quite ruling Villa out just yet. What about you, Gary? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling confident. It's nice to have it in your own hands. You're not looking at other results. Of course, you're going to look at them, but you're not because of the obvious. You win your game in hand, you're back in third, and everybody else has got the pressure back on them. If you're down in six and the same games and everything, and you're looking at the fixtures, then you're thinking, oh my word, we're going to miss out. But it's in our hands. If we win our games that are expected to win, then we finish in the top five. Not everybody else is going to win. The pressure's going to be on everybody as well, not just us. So yeah, it's down to us. And if we get Aina back, which I'm sincerely hoping so, we've got Nico coming back, Ryan Yates is available. We've got a full fit squad, and that is so important going into the final games of the season. And Villa have had a lot of games. The Champions League, the pressure. Arsenal, Man City. Their running does look simple, and I think they're nailed on, obviously. But yeah, it's in our hands, and that's whatever you want, whether you're at the top or the bottom. It's there to be yours if you can take it. Not that you're hoping that somebody else has got to lose games. They haven't. We've just got to win our games, and we're there.
Yeah, and I feel like I've said this about every game for probably the last 15 games, but I'll say it about the Brentford game as well, Temps. If we win this one, it feels massive. It puts us on 63 with Leicester to play, which you would hope be 66. So if we can win this one, it's huge, isn't it?
Scoreboard pressure, get the points on the board, sit back and see what everybody else does. We're experiencing the opposite of that at the minute, sitting in sixth, having not taken part in that last round of games, but a chance to make amends. So absolutely massive. I think we've got the better squad, better team. If we get our execution right, we will beat Brentford on Thursday. It's not terminal. It's not a must win. There is a route in which we don't secure 3 points on Thursday and still go on to do this because of the challenges that some of our rivals have. But I think to give us that confidence, to give the players belief, to get us on track to be where we need to be, then a win on Thursday is really, really important. And it applies so much more pressure to our rivals if we can wake up Friday morning back in the top five.
Yeah, I think if we don't win on Thursday, what it means is it probably goes the last day. I think this is the route to avoid it, probably. Just finish us off on this game, Emily. How are you feeling nerves-wise? They'll be turned up to 11, will they?
Brentford, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I've already got butterflies in my stomach thinking about it, actually. And I hate the thought of it being a must-win, because it's not a must-win, is it, actually? Because there are other games that we can win. But I think for our nerves, we need to try and get 3 points. Their attack scares me, Bamo and Wissa, but I'm just hoping that Nuno can tactically get it spot on. And like you say, we've got those players back that we've talked about. Someone mentioned in the comments, actually, AD, really good point, really positive from yesterday. Obviously, Zack Abbott got cramp, but there were no injuries from yesterday. Anderson was pulled at 75 minutes, I think, wasn't he? So he didn't have to do the full 90. Same with Chris Wood. So actually, we should go into that game almost fully fit, if not fully fit. But yeah, the nerves are already there, and actually because of other commitments, I can't be there on Thursday. I think it's the first or second home game I've missed all season. So I'll be I'll be a bag of nerves, I think, with that one, especially not being there.
Greg's not there either. First game he's missed
God.
forever, I think. So yeah.
Can the game even go ahead?
Postponed. Just on the game as well, Gary. Yeah, Chris Wood was pulled with 20 minutes to go, so that I think that is probably a positive because we can get maybe get 90 out of him in this one. What do you want to see from us in terms of approach to the game? I suppose I'm angling at an intense start here is what we're looking for, is it?
Just what we've been doing all season to get us where we are now. You don't have to change anything. Just do what we've done well. Just ask everybody to do what they have to do, their singular jobs, and it all comes together as a team. We've seen that on many occasions this season. It's all about team. But, every individual has got to step up to the plate and, they can see the finish line. Don't get nervous by it. Get enthused by it. Just looking forward to, being part of, one of the biggest competitions in world football. And we can do that. We've proved it. I was quite hoping Chris would have stayed on and Taiwo would have come on and we might have gone two up front just to try and unsettle Man City and make them think, crikey, what's happening here? But it didn't happen like that. And fitness levels, hopefully are going to be there. Aina coming back, I think, is a massive boost if he does. And we don't need to do anything different to what's got us where we are now. Full stop. You don't have to change anything. All we did on yesterday was just miss the target when we perhaps should have hit the target. Little things, and not big things. We didn't do a heap of things badly. And it was Man City we're playing. We gave 2 bad goals away. And, that's one thing the players will be looking at, thinking we could have done better, with those 2 situations. And you just put those right and keep doing what you've been doing all season, and we'll be there. We'll finish in the top 5.
Good. I remember before the player final, Garry Birtles said, "Don't worry, it'll all be fine." And that stuck with me. And now he's told me we're going to finish in the top 5. So I have no doubt about it at all. If you have enjoyed this, do us a favour, hit like, hit subscribe. Do consider channel membership or Patreon, or give us a lovely 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. Any other business, Michael Temple?
Well, I was preparing for you to ask about James McAtee. He's a player in the Man City squad.
Time allowing. So talk about James McAtee if you want.
Well, yeah, it's exactly the type of player that I'd love us to sign. I think that the depth they'll give us, for one, having a player of that caliber in the squad. But whilst he is ostensibly a winger, he's so good in traffic. He just have the ball in any situation, protects it, brings others into play, unselfish. Also times his runs into the boxes really well. He's got an eye for goal and so much potential. He just feels to be in that groove of the type of player that we would look to sign, play, and add value to. So the kind of rumour that I'm interested in, I know it's silly season coming up, but that is the profile of player that really excites me. And that there is going to be a period of change at Man City. There'll be more in for them in the summer window. There'll be a few victims of that. And if that's a supermarket that we're shopping in, then fantastic. And it's the kind of transfer that a top 5 finish facilitates. So so many reasons why more days like yesterday can flow from this kind of league finish once you're able to cement your position in that echelon of the Premier League by signing the type of player that keeps you there. I think he's one of them.
Yeah, we'll do some more transfer chat at some point this week. McAtee was on the list because Fabrizio Romano, I think it was, said that we were keen. Or was it Rob Dorset? I can't remember. But I agree with Tams. Exactly the kind of player that we could go for. Not an out-and-out winger, but a very clever player who's got a big future. And obviously City sold Cole Palmer to finance some transfers, and I wonder if they might do the same with McAtee. So he would definitely be a big tick from me. Emily, anything you want to add before we go?
Yeah, just a couple of things. I forgot to mention at the end of the game, how wonderful was it that the Forest fans stayed to applaud the players despite losing 2-0, in stark contrast to the Villa fans the day before. And before the game at the train station, as I was waiting to use the ladies, a Man City fan said to me, "Oh, well, it'll be easier for us to get out of the station after the game because you lot will have all basically left. You'll leave early." I said, there is no chance the Forest fans will leave early no matter what, and they did us proud, so that's fantastic. If anyone saw me yesterday, you'd have seen that I was in a full Forest kit, mainly just for a joke really, but also I wonder if it'll make anyone want to sponsor me for a marathon walk that I'm doing in July, actually, I got a lot of good humour from people yesterday. So if you do want to sponsor me, I'll get Matt to put the link up. It's the Peak District Mighty Hike for Macmillan Cancer Support, walking across the Peak District, 26 miles in a day. So yeah, if you'd like to support that cause, that would be absolutely fantastic. So yeah, but yesterday was a great day, great fans, great club, and I feel super proud, super proud. Bring on Thursday and Brentford. Let's do them.
I shall put the link in the description after this. So if you want to sponsor Emily, do that. It'd be very much appreciated. Last word to you, Gary. Anything you want to add before we go?
Yeah, congratulations to Nigel Clough for keeping Mansfield in League One. It was always going to be a tough job for him, and I spoke to him. He's delighted, so good for him. Let's just hope Notts County can maintain what they're doing and keep in and around the playoffs. Great result for Notts Cricket, to see them at the top. Absolutely battered Sussex, which was brilliant. And the last but not least, I saw Stuart Pearce where I was sitting. He came out of he was working, I think, for TalkSport, and he came and said hello. And it's the first time I've seen him since he was taken ill, because I texted him and phoned him and everything when he was ill. Great to see him in such good health. He was back to normal, and it was a pleasure seeing him.
Lovely. Emily's going to do my any other business. She's stealing my thunder. Go on, Emily.
I don't know, if you want to do it, you can do it. I can't believe we've come all this way without not mentioning the Forest women who won the league yesterday and are now in the Championship. So on a day that wasn't so great for the men's team, the women's team got promoted as champions, which is blooming awesome. Absolutely fantastic. And also, I promised Bruce at Toddington Services that I'd say hello to him. Morning, Bruce. I hope you're watching. Lovely to see you.
Well done to Forest women. It's been a real battle to get out of that league for a few years because it's only been one up. So they've won the league finally, and they're in the second tier now. So yeah, well done to them. Well done to Notts Cricket. Who was it? Sussex who beat them?
Yeah, brushed them aside. Lads are flying.
Good. Let's keep it going. Let's keep it going across the county then. We shall be back tomorrow, I think, probably with a Brentford match preview, opposition preview on Wednesday, post-match on Thursday, and then Prutz should return on Friday, and we'll do another one of these style shows on Friday. That is the plan. Right. Emily Anderson, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Very welcome. Michael Temple, thank you very much.
Cheers, everyone. And thanks to Paul Morley for the pub tip. It was St. John's Wood was a sea of red yesterday to add to all the other hostelries that we saw on our way through London. Forest fans on Boris bikes, Forest fans on the top of buses. It was a genuine sea of red. And yeah, despite the result, I think we've hopefully all reflected that we had a lovely day.
I was going to say, driving down the M1 as well, it was so many Forest fans. It was great to see. I mean, travel was an absolute nightmare. That's a whole other topic. But yeah, it was Forest fans everywhere. Garry Birtles, thank you very much.
Yeah, pleasure to be a Nottingham boy yesterday.
Yeah, so I love where I come from, but I am a bit jealous that I'm a bit of an adopted Forest fan.
To see the fans, outnumber Man City how they did, and they outsing everybody, to be fair. Not just why all these other clubs not got their own songs? It's come on City, come on Arsenal. It's so basic, isn't it? Whereas our lot have got so many different great songs, and it was just great to be part of it.
Certainly was a very enjoyable day. Like I say, I'll put a video out later around our day. But have a good day, everyone. And if we don't see you tomorrow, we shall see you soon.